I believe in God, only I spell it nature. The straight line belongs to men, the curved one to God. God is in the details. Architecture is the learned game, correct and magnificent, of forms assembled in the light. Architecture should speak of its time and place, but yearn for timelessness. The difference between good and bad architecture is the time you spend on it. I don't think that architecture is only about shelter, is only about a very simple enclosure. It should be able to excite you, to calm you, to make you think. Form must have a content, and that content must be linked with nature. I believe that the way people live can be directed a little by architecture. To me, the American dream is being able to follow your own personal calling. To be able to do what you want to do is incredible freedom. Architecture is the art of how to waste space. Architecture is a code. It's a pure code, derived from the dimensions of nature. A museum is a place where one should lose one's head. The only way forward, if we are going to improve the quality of the environment, is to get everybody involved. Form follows function. A garden must combine the poetic and the mysterious with a feeling of serenity and joy. Rationalism is the enemy of art, though necessary as a basis for architecture. When we dream alone, it is only a dream. But when many dream together, it is the beginning of a new reality. In the big picture, architecture is the art and science of making sure that our cities and buildings fit with the way we want to live our lives. A building has at least two lives, the one imagined by its maker and the life it lives afterward, and they are never the same. There is a very beautiful expression in the Hebrew language that's borrowed from spoken Torah. All is predicted, and permission is given at any point to change anything. I think I live by this idiom in the sense that there is always a goal. There is always something to look forward to in life. And my creative search and that goal is there. The Industrial Revolution was another of those extraordinary jumps forward in the story of civilization. The quiet, rhythmic monotone of the wall of logs fills one with the rustic peace of a secluded nook in the woods. Designs of purely arbitrary nature cannot be expected to last long. What I try to do is the art of building, and the art of building is the art of construction. It is not only about forms and shapes and images. To provide meaningful architecture is not to parody history, but to articulate it. As an architect, you design for the present with an awareness of the past, for a future which is essentially unknown. We have big problems. Flooding, earthquake, and many foolish things, which now people are doing. I mean, these self-made catastrophes. We are able to give to every man on the street the possibilities to help himself. And to fight for this was one of my duties. Be truthful. Nature only sides with truth. He who seeks truth shall find beauty. He who seeks beauty shall find vanity. He who seeks order shall find gratification. He who seeks gratification shall be disappointed. He who considers himself the servant of his fellow beings shall find the joy of self-expression. He who seeks self-expression shall fall into the pit of arrogance. Each new situation requires a new architecture. I think architects tend to believe that they can almost do anything, which is a wonderful characteristic, but in some cases, you just fall flat. This is a fundamental view of the world. It says that when you build a thing, you cannot merely build that thing in isolation, but must repair the world around it and within it, so that the larger world at that one place becomes more coherent and more whole, and the thing which you make takes its place in the web of nature as you make it. Architecture is a visual art, and the buildings speak for themselves. The essence of architecture is form and space, and light is the essential element to the key to architectural design, probably more important than anything. Technology and materials are secondary. Surprise is key in all art. Architecture begins where engineering ends. Rome has not seen a modern building in more than half a century. It is a city frozen in time. The ultimate pleasure of architecture lies in the most forbidden parts of the architectural act, where limits are perverted and prohibitions are transgressed. The World Trade Center is a living symbol of man's dedication to world peace, a representation of man's belief in humanity, his need for individual dignity, his beliefs in the cooperation of men, and through cooperation of men, and through cooperation, his ability to find greatness. You say to a brick, "What do you want, brick?" And brick says to you, "I like an arch." And you say to brick, "Look, I want one too, but arches are expensive and I can use a concrete lintel." And then you say, "What do you think of that, brick?" Brick says, "I like an arch." When I am true to my inspiration, even fight for my design, the project always turns out well. The city is like a great house, and the house in its turn, a small city. If architecture had nothing to do with art, it would be astonishingly easy to build houses. But the architect's task, his most difficult task, is always that of selecting. Let your watchword be order and your beacon beauty. People get very excited about very high elements. That's why Mount Everest is so important. It's not the most difficult mountain, but it's the most famous because it's the tallest. A good engineer thinks in reverse and asks himself about the stylistic consequences of the components and systems he proposes. For me, the excitement in architecture revolves around the idea and the phenomenon of the experience of that idea. Residences offer almost immediate gratification. You can shape space, light, and materials to a degree that you sometimes can't in larger projects. Architecture is not an inspirational business. It's a rational procedure to do sensible and hopefully beautiful things. That's all. Since the Industrial Revolution, we tend to use technology to show our power. We build high-rises, towers, big buildings that become symbols of power and capitalism. We don't talk about how emotions and nature can be connected.